Hey everyone, this is Nick from NXC Plants. I'm going to be doing a little bit different of a video today. I'm going to be focusing on some of the Monstera I grow. I'm going to take you through sort of how I grow them, how long I've been growing them for. Yeah, I think this is probably the largest genus outside of Anthurium that I collect, and I really enjoy Monstera. I think, fun fact, the first plant I purchased off of like Marketplace instead of going to, just like Home Depot or a normal plant store is it was a large form Monstera deliciosa cutting. And yeah, that was like so many years ago now. And grew that thing up huge all the way to like tertiary fenestrations. And then I faced my first thripocalypse. And for those unfamiliar, it's when thrips eat your entire collection because you don't know how to deal with them. And it's your first time encountering a house pest. So it, along with, pretty much everything I was growing at that time, didn't make it. But here we are today with a whole bunch of different Monstera. So before, I think I'm gonna go in chronological order of when I got them. So I think let's start with my albo. Got this thing, so many years ago. Back when we were in university. This was, actually Corbin bought this one, but this was one of our first, pricey plants that we got for our collection. It's been propped many a time. You see it has absolutely beautiful genetics. Super duper marbly and nice sectoral sometimes, but not so much white that it ever browns. So I really do appreciate how this one grows. Just recently repotted it after I took it as a top cut. I had it growing in a 32-ounce container, but I moved it over to one of these big self-watering pots filled with pon. I like these from Monstera. I find their roots are a little bit hardier, and I don't really feel the need to constantly be checking on them. They really let you know when there's a problem before they die, unlike some Anthurium. So I'm a little more comfortable keeping them in these pots where I can't easily view the roots. But yeah, got my beautiful albo. I think, God, this is gonna be crazy, but back when we got this was probably the beginning of, this was I think 2020. I paid $180 for a mid-cut that was rooted, no leaf or anything, and now I would obviously never pay that much for a variegated plant that I didn't know what it looked like, but at the time, this sounds crazy, but that wasn't too bad of a price, and thankfully I got lucky and it had beautiful marbling and it continued to grow well. Yeah, this is my albo. I think for the time being I'm probably not going to cut it. I'm going to see how big I can get it without a pole, because I really don't want to put a pole in. I don't know about you, but I had my moss pole phase and I'm very strictly out of it. That's why probably between the large form and the Borsigiana, I know some people say there's no difference. As someone who's grown both, I can tell you there's a difference. I know they generally like poles to get super mature. I don't want to deal with a pole. That's probably why I prefer the large form. They get mature, they stay squat without a pole, so I kind of like that. Okay, rant over. We're gonna go through the next one. Yeah, I got these two at the same time. So I'll start with the easier to lift one. I got the next two at the same time, so I'm gonna start with the easier to lift one. It's gonna be this Monstera aurea. I bought it as a Devon's aurea, having grown both a regular aurea and a Devon's aurea. I don't know if there's a difference. I mean, to me it looks like a normal aurea. I purchased it thinking it was a large form, but it's not that. It also browns really aggressively, so I'm hoping a leaf that's putting out this one here that's nice and super marbly doesn't brown as badly as these other ones I've had to cut. And I'm not normally a big fan of trimming the leaves, but this thing browns its yellow so quickly, and I'm giving it, I should probably be giving it more light. It is being fed silica, but I think my big limiting factor is light. I mostly have my light set for Anthurium, so it's a little bit hard for me to give Monstera the level of light they want. Like on one of my top shelves, I installed two 10-watt bars, and they sit about 18 inches from the the shelf bottom up to where the lights are, but only the smaller Monstera can fit on there. So this guy has since graduated, and even when it was up there, right on a light to the point it was bleaching, it was still browning its edges. I have this other one here I can talk about. You see this one here? It's been so close to the light, it's actually bleached itself and still browning. And this is with silica, good feed, good humidity. I just can't seem to keep the huge sectoral leaves at all on this plant. This cutting in particular really likes to do sectoral. I'm keeping it to do another round of props to see what it produces since it is so high variegation. I'm kind of interested to see if I'll get something interesting because it does a lot of 1 or 2 layer variegation, and that actually holds a lot better than the 3 layer. So if I can prop something interesting that's, consistently 1 or 2 layer, I might get something I can work with. That's why, this cutting is here. But yeah, as I was saying, really bad browning, which makes this plant a little bit difficult to want to keep. I'm thinking I might get a Maryland. Yeah, the Maryland is a large form aurea developed by Kunzo, and it's known for its particular vibrant yellow. If you've ever grown an aurea, you know how they go sort of that green to the yellow into sort of a very yellowy, creamy color, whereas the Maryland is known to hold the yellow, and it is a large form. It's also been, I believe it's in TC, so there's been a few rounds released now. The prices have come down a lot, so I think I might pick one up just because I would like a true large form aurea. I should say, I've had this plant, the main plant, which I've propped from many times. I've had it for, let's say, I want to say I got it recently after moving here, so that would put it at about a year ago. So I've been growing this for about a year. I got it as a rootless top cut. I think I'm gonna insert a picture, just because that's always fun to see where it came from. And it's since grown pretty well. Very quick. But like I said, the only downside is how leggy it is. And I'm sure like the albo and some of these other ones, with time and maturity, it would shrink its internodal spacing quite a bit. I just personally prefer the experience of growing the large form. I'm sorry, the cat is knocking around the blinds. I'll be right back. And I have grown it like side by side with the regular aurea. And again, Next up, I got this plant the same time as the Devons, so I'm gonna say about a year ago. This is my Kunzo white monster. So it is a large form. You can see, went from this leaf down here. This is the first leaf in my care. I got it as a mid-cut. Then it went to this beautiful leaf, one of my favorite leaves I've ever seen. Then it went a little bit green on me, but still has some good white to it. Another very green leaf, and this looks like it'll just have minimal splotching of white. It's one of the fun things about the Kunzo is just how random the variegation is. And if it ever starts to do revert or it's too green for you, you can just cut it back. And the new growth I find tends to be white. But yeah, it's matured so rapidly. Like I said, I think it went from just a little inner fenestration 1 over here all the way up to 5 on this leaf. And that was with a repot not too long ago, so it didn't even stall out at all in the repot. Let me see. Let me show you the roots. Oh my gosh. Look at that root. That is nutty. Oops. You can see that root? It almost looks like one of the wicks. So this thing's been busy. That root is thick. Look at that next to my pinky. So it's been great, clearly. Okay. Normally I'd trim that, but I'm not going to do that on video today. I'm just gonna leave it be. Okay, next Monstera. Oh, right. Gotta keep talking about this. Yeah, out of all my Monstera, I think this is probably my favorite. I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, hoping it'll get more white with age, but if it doesn't, my plan is to mature it, so that when I do prop and get new growth, it'll be a lot more mature than what I started with. The next Monstera is this Marx Flame. I got this guy probably about 8 months ago, maybe a little bit less, and I got it as a butt cut. Oops. I top light this plant, so it's a little bit hard to have the foliage be angled without pouring pon out of the pot, but whatever. As I was saying, got this as a butt cut like 8 months ago. I've since removed the butt and left a node to give a piece to my friend, so that had the first leaf, but after that it went, this leaf, this leaf, this leaf, this leaf, which was my first crab claw. Then I went to this one. And sadly, this is the new emergent leaf. It did lose the fenestrations, and I did repot it and some other stuff, so I think this might be my my punishment for chopping it, but I'm not too upset. It's still a good sized leaf, and I'm sure the fenestrations will come back on the next leaf or whatever. I cannot wait to get this thing mature. I always see Kevin, the Hakuna La Planta, just recently posted a video about this plant actually, and oh my gosh, it was so nice. This is so mature. It's got such great fenestrations and like totally goals for this plant. Yeah, this is the Marx Flame. After that, I got this Monstera. Oopsies. I have this Monstera Mint. Here we go. The leaves in order of appearance, and this is a leaf that it's only just started to harden. What's interesting about this plant is it tends to do more variegation on the right side. So after seeing this leaf, I'm very hopeful. And I'm hopeful because one side of the plant has really good variegation and the other side has green. So that means that you'll get a pretty good growing plant that'll mature nicely. And at the end of the day, you still have a plant you can prop from. So I always love a plant that does, sort of high variegation on one side and then one side with a lot of green, but still showing some variegation. And if I look at the stem, I don't know if it'll show it all on camera, but I can see there's a lot of marbling and white, indicating where if the new growth grows, it'll, have good color. Here is my Monstera Mint. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that one. Okay, now we're on to the plants that I've gotten pretty recently. It's actually second to last. This is my Monstera esqueleto, and I was fortunate enough to actually pick this one up from my local garden center not too long ago. It's only been like, see, it's got beautiful roots already in this pot. Hopefully they're going to show on camera. Yeah, so far so good. I know this is a plant that will probably need a moss pole, otherwise it's going to shoot runners. So maybe I can jerry rig something I can learn to live with, or try playing around with a tree fern pole. But until it runs out of pot that I can keep extending to avoid putting it on a pole, that's what I'm going to do. Absolutely love the esqueleto. I'd been waiting years to get one at a price I was willing to pay, and that price just happened to be $12 at the garden center. Okay, and last, I was going to say not least, but this one probably is actually least, is this Monstera obliqua Peru. Now this is a plant that ever since, back in the day watching Kaylee Ellen, this plant was hyped through the roof, thousands and thousands of dollars, and luckily for me, I waited quite a few years and got it for $18. These two little plants, and I mean, they're a little bit ugly and mangy, and they definitely had, or at some point, a much happier, healthier plant, and there were bigger ones. But this guy had two plants in the pot, and the foliage and the roots looked in pretty good shape. So picked this one up from the clearance section at the garden center. Yeah, pretty happy with it. This is another one that needs to climb, but the great thing about it is it stays pretty small, so I'm actually going to plant it into the Milsbo. That way it can climb the moss walls, and I don't have to deal with the runners. So another reason I wanted it small. That way it doesn't have the funny, where it goes from the established leaves down to the repot leaves back to the established leaves. That always drives me a little bit crazy. So I'm hoping to get these guys set up in the cabinet, and I'm going to do that now for the rest of the video. Okay, I'm now at the cabinet. I'm going to do this a little bit off camera quickly. I'm just going to remove it from the dirt, and I think I'm going to stick it probably right down here. Unfortunately, that's where a Marx fantasy is living, but I didn't do enough planning when I was planting things into this cabinet, and it's sort of become overrun with a million different plants, which is kind of what I wanted anyway. So yeah, I mean, if you look at the bottom, it's just a chunk graveyard. Well, not graveyard, since they are living. And a bunch of moss and things are trying to establish, so I'm having a good time just letting this thing go wild. But yeah, I think I'm going to stick it here and try and get the obliqua to climb and fill out this area. And then I think I'll work the Marx fantasy up to fill the space in here. And then in that back, really dark area, it's probably too dark for the camera to pick up, is where the Clydemuloides that's living there is going to fill in that really dark spot, because that's the kind of area it likes to grow in. So yeah, I think I'm going to start by moving this orchid. Just got a little hook, so I just stick it in a place that I think doesn't have too much light for it. I believe it's a Trissatella. But I think for now I'm going to just stick it there and call it a day. Okay, you can see these were just like, looks like mid-cuts taken, quickly sprouted. I definitely thought this was TC. I didn't realize it was cuttings, but cool. I'm gonna start planting them now. Can you see if I reach my hand down there? This is really unfortunate. I don't think there's an angle I can place the camera where you're gonna be able to see what I'm doing. It's got really good roots. Not so much on the roots I planted it with, but the new roots have been doing okay. And I think I'm just gonna really lazily just shove it behind the other ones and pretend like it lived there the whole time. I've made my spot. I'm gonna just loosen up the substrate. The best thing about this cabinet is everything really just grows in it. The humidity is so high. I don't know if you can see it. I'm gonna crank it up just for effect. See the cool mist rolling in. So everything in here grows really great. So do we want 2 heads? I think we want 2 heads. In they go. Then I'm just gonna stick the substrate back that I moved around, and voila, they are in. That's all I have to do with this cabinet. It's so great. And it'll start aerials and all that stuff will shoot, and hopefully before too long it'll fill in this section over here. I'm gonna move the orchid and stuff. Yeah, I think it'll have a good spot in this corner. Good access to the light. Let me move the camera so you can see what I did. This is actually such a hard spot to show you without damaging the camera or the mic. If you can see right down there, that's where those little obliquas went. So that concludes this portion of the video. I wanted to do something a little bit different and show sort of that I also grow Monstera. And it's definitely something I want to get a little bit more into. I think I wrote these down. I wanted to make sure. Oopsies. I'm gonna pull up my notes. Yeah, because I absolutely love Monstera, and I'm so excited that so many of these cultivars are becoming, you know, a little bit more accessible and out there. There's a few more I'm definitely looking to pick up, like the Croatii, the Filamentosa, and then as far as variegated ones go, I kind of like the dwarf Tycon. I like the dwarf Monstera. Monstera, is it called Compacta? Can't remember, but it looks exactly like a large form Monstera, including the tight internode. It's just, it's tiny, like dinner plate sized. Yeah, and it also comes in Tycon now, so that's pretty cool. And then, you know, like the crazy ones are like the Monstera Legacy. That thing is still so pricey. And the other ones I really like that are variegated are the Shamrock Shake, which is a really nice green with dark green flecks, and the Bulbasaur, which is similar. They're different. Let me just make this clear. They're different. I sort of have it as like a one or the other in my notes, just because I probably pick one or the other. And the Bulbasaur, I think it's more of a white versus the mint with the dark green. I will do my best to find pictures to insert of the two. There aren't many out there, but if I can find them, I will show them. But yeah, I wanted to also talk about the growing conditions. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. I don't know, it'd be fun if you guys commented down below what your favorite Monstera is, like variegated form, cultivar, whatever. Thank you so much again for watching. Have a good rest of your weekend. Bye.